I really loved seeing your planets that you created, your inner and your outer planets. That was so cool how creative that all of you were in that assignment. So today, what we are going to be working on is thinking about the stars that we see in the nighttime sky. Have any of you ever been to a really dark place? Maybe you've gone camping or maybe to a grandparent's house somewhere out in the country where it's super dark outside, not a lot of light pollution, and you look up at the sky and you see all of these stars. And have you ever tried to connect some of the dots to make a picture with what you see? Well, you're not alone. People have been doing that for millions and thousands of years. Even people way back in ancient Greece and Rome and China, all over the world, have been looking up at the stars in our sky and creating pictures about what they see and telling stories about what they think those stars are. And so on our screen, you'll see some examples of some pictures that people have created by connecting the dots of different stars in our world. And so these all are named and have different stories to tell about how they got into the sky. Now, this one right here that I'm pointing at, this is probably one of the most famous ones, the Big Dipper that we can see in the northern hemisphere. It looks like a big ladle that you're dipping. And so stars are also really important when it comes to trying to find your way if it's dark and pointing in certain directions, right? So like our Big Dipper has a star called the North Star that if you follow it, you know you're going in the north direction. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to learn about what it's called when you group stars together and give them a name and a story. And so today we're going to learn about constellations. And hopefully my video will come up here. Give it a second. Very interesting. Oh, fingers crossed it'll work. I know everyone's been working from home, so the internet's been a little slow lately. Okay.
Okay, class. Who would like to do problem 3 on the board?
And we'll skip the ad.
Please don't.
All right, here we go, first grade.
Oh, hey guys! It's just gotten dark here, so we're spending a little time before bed looking at the night sky. And sometimes we like to look up at the stars and make up funny stories about the things that we see. Have you ever looked up at the clouds during the day and thought about what they looked like? A duck, an alligator, a shark, or even a bear? Well, people do the same thing with the stars, and they've done so for thousands of years. I'm sure you've noticed on a nice clear night how there are so many stars in the sky. More than you can probably count. Some stars look brighter to us than others, and the darker it is where you live, like if you're really far from the lights of a city, the more stars you can see. And for a long time, people have seen pictures among certain groups of stars, just like connect the dots. These groups of stars are sometimes called constellations, and scientists still use the names of these constellations to describe different parts of the night sky. Probably the most famous group of stars that's easiest to find is the Big Dipper. If you live in the northern hemisphere, you can spot it pretty easily in the northern part of the sky. It's made of 7 bright stars, and if you connect the dots of those stars, you'll see a big, squarish bowl with a really long handle sticking out of it. In the United States, some people thought the stars looked like a big ladle or spoon, so they called it the Big Dipper. But just like the fluffy clouds we were talking about, groups of stars can look different to different people. In Great Britain, for example, the same 7 stars are called the Plough because they were thought to look like a farmer's plow. And people in Germany thought it looked like a wagon. And those same stars also reminded lots of ancient people of a giant bear. Scientists today consider the Big Dipper to be part of a bigger constellation that they call Ursa Major, for Great Bear. The Big Dipper is easiest to find in the summer when it's higher in the sky. But in the winter, you should look for another famous constellation, Orion. The first part that you'll probably see are the 3 bright stars in a row. In ancient Greece, stargazers thought that they looked like the belt of a great hunter. They thought the 2 bright stars above it would be where his shoulders were, and the 2 stars below it, his legs. The more people looked, the more other things they saw, And if you use your imagination and follow the stars from one of his shoulders, you can see another group of stars, like he's holding on to something, like a shield. And what are those fuzzy lights hanging from his belt? Well, kind of looks like a sword. There's a lot more to Orion than just a few stars. That's why when astronomers talk about constellations, they don't just mean the few stars that might look like something. They also mean all of the other stuff in that part of the night sky. So part of what gives Orion's sword its fuzzy brightness is a distant cloud of gas and dust called the Orion Nebula. That's part of the Orion constellation, too. So what if you live in the southern hemisphere? Then keep your eyes open for the crux, the smallest of the constellations. It's still pretty easy to find, especially in the winter, because of the 4 bright stars that make a cross, which is what its name means. The southern hemisphere is also a great place to find Sagittarius, a constellation that reminded ancient Greeks of a creature that was part man, part horse, shooting an arrow. For most people, the easiest way to find it is to look for the 8 stars that make this shape. To me, it looks more like a teapot, but that's why it's fun to make up stories. So the next time that you're outside and it's dark, look up and see if you can find any of these constellations or other groups of stars. Or you could just make up your own. Okay, Squeaks, let's find something that looks like a rat. See you next time on SciShow Kids!
So a constellation is an area within our viewing our sphere around Earth. So if we say that looks like it's by Orion, that's everything that is in that area. And it's a way to almost map out what we can see from Earth. So in your Seesaw account today, you are going to open it up and you're going to see that there are some connect the dot pages in there of different constellations with a little sentence describing that constellation. So you're going to use the drawing tool, the pencil or the marker within Seesaw, and you're going to draw and connect those dots so that way you can create the constellations and learn a little bit more about them. And then if you go out at night, see if you can look up and find any of the stars. It may be a little bit hard in Chicago because we have all the city lights and light pollution, but it could be a fun activity to do. So I will see everyone later. Bye, first grade.